What's going on, world? This is Ricardo Emmanuel, also known as Ricky Directs, checking in with Ambiance podcast, here to share my story. Hopefully you can relate to it.
What up, people? This is Levi from Ambiance podcast, sitting with a very special guest. His name is Ricardo Emmanuel, a.k.a. Ricky Directs, a.k.a. Always Sunday. Am I missing anything?
No, yeah, that's pretty much it.
A man of many talents, Congrats on that project that you just released, bro.
Thank you, man.
It was Project 001, right?
Yeah, Object 001.
Object 001
was the first release of a art good company that I recently also launched this past December of 2020.
Fire. Talk about the significance of that for you, because I know that was probably like a really big deal, right?
Yeah, it was something that I had been working on going into 2020 and starting the year. Even if you were to look back, you'll see me starting to brand the infamous B logo, or the B that I've been using for a bit now. And it's something that, given the times and COVID and the pandemic and all the madness of the world, it pushed things back quite a bit, especially for my resources when it came to like materials and things like that, because I was outsourcing from like China. So for shipping purposes, things got pushed back, but it ended up being a blessing in disguise, because I was able to then from there source everything locally here in Los Angeles, and I think that it just added more to the element of the story.
That was really important for you to have it locally sourced?
It wasn't at first. I at first just wanted to make sure that I had produced enough to be able to drop and get people their product in hand right away.
Oh, okay. Expedite the process.
Yeah, versus what the typical situation nowadays is with things where it's like you buy something online, it doesn't show up for like 2 months. Man,
and there's so many hands inside of the jar on that, because I experienced from doing a couple clothing jobs last year for Ambiance. I just realized like how many different people like play a part in it, because there's a production team that prints that produces the garments. Then they send it to a printing shop that prints on the logo. Then it gets sent to like a fulfillment center. Yep. So it's like there's so many opportunities for somebody to make a hiccup that it makes the process take so long.
Yeah, definitely. But given the times and the pandemic and everything else that has been going on, it helped more in the sense of I was able to be hands-on, picking out the material, seeing samples, liking things, not liking things, elevating the experience time after time after time after time after time. I probably have friends who are just sick and tired of me just like bugging them and talking to them about,
for real?
Yeah, just like the experience and the afterlife of the product and the way it's delivered and the durability and just so much, just because I was able to actually see it come to life from thought to actual tangible good.
Yeah.
And it being a 10-minute drive, the production office where I was working out of, from my house was super cool, because anytime there was a hiccup or a confusion or something else needed to be given to them really, really quick, I was able to just show up right then and there.
And just take care of it.
Take care of it right away. And then when it was time to actually like put things into production after samples were 100% agreed upon, it was just cool to see it all come to life right away.
It's so dope that you think like that. And I think that reflects on the work that you have too, which I wanted to get into. And your work just seems so transcendent and unique, and the way you think just seems so different. What allows you to think that way? Is it like experience, or is it just something that comes to you?
Thank you for that, man. I mean, for me, it's I'm a very nostalgic kind of person, and at the end of the day, like you said, multiple titles, a Swiss Army knife of a creative is what I try to consider myself. But even then, I'm just a storyteller, man. I just want to tell a story, and hopefully my story can relate to many people, or just tell a story, whether it's something that I came up with or something that I've experienced myself. But I think that once you get that down to that relatable factor to your work, then it organically just happens.
Okay.
I just don't see myself putting in effort to any project or any passion that isn't truly fulfilling me at this point.
Fire.
So it's just naturally what I do.
And have you always been this way? Like, have you always had this kind of thought process, or did you kind of develop it over time?
I think it's something that's always been there for me. I've always been a huge advocate of process over product. So just enjoying the process and really basking in the journey versus focusing or trying to freak out about the final product or whatever it is that goal that you're going towards. But definitely over the years through discipline and just trial and error, really, like, you know, the more you try to force something, like I feel like sometimes the world is just like, dude, the more you're trying, the least I'll give it to you. You know,
yeah,
like,
that's true.
So yeah, for me, it was just one of those things that over the years, I've just been able to truly just find myself, know what it is that I want to create. And also know not to put myself in a box. You know, I'm known first and foremost probably as a photographer, which is my trade. And it's something that, you know, I still take very much pride in. But it took a long time to be able to be comfortable enough to just consider myself or call myself an artist.
Yeah.
Just like an artist, period. You know, not just a photographer, not just a videographer or a director, a creative director or a DJ or whatever it might be. I just didn't want to stick to that box. And once I was comfortable enough with knowing that, because, you know, in society today, especially with like social media and social constructs, it's just like you're almost forced to like pick a label. Yeah. And if you don't know what you are, then that's even worse than like knowing what you are and not like and keeping yourself in a box.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
So it's just like this constant battle of like, well, this is who I know who I am, but this is what people know me as, and how can I let them know that there's more to it, you know?
Yeah. And with having so many different talents, I think that it opens up a lot of more opportunities, and being that they're so relatable, whether it's visual communications, music, they all tie together. So it's kind of like what you do on one side can help you out on the other side too, because of the connections you're making, right?
Yep, definitely. And it all helps. It's all relative to the storytelling. You know, since I was a little kid, like music has always been so important to my life. Like my parents always told me since I was young, I would always be singing or dancing. You know, I take very much after my father, who's very much into music as well. So music has always played a major factor in my life, but nothing to the point where I saw myself being a musical artist. But I knew that it also helped me tell a story. You know, I've always been into playlisting, and then from there, just like being surrounded around DJs and learning that craft, and respecting that craft more than anything, because learning it and respecting it are two different things. And I think that once I was comfortable enough in knowing also what kind of sound I wanted to put out, which is where Always Sunday came about, that helped me with the music side, but then the music just helps me with the visual side of stuff, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's cool how you tie it all back to telling a story.
Yep.
And I'm really into that. That's why I obviously have this podcast. Is I love having interesting people on like you that have a story that maybe somebody out there listening to this can relate to. You know what I mean? And every single like DM of support that I get is like what makes it so worth it. You know what I mean? Because people are talking about how they're inspired by these stories that are being told. So now it's like I feel like I can't quit this, because at this point it's like bigger than me. You know what I mean? Because it means so much to you that for me to quit on it, I feel like I'd be letting people down, you know?
Yeah, man. And for me, you know, to touch back a little bit on the social media thing, like I don't have this ridiculous following to what, you know, a lot of people I guess would think I would have for the type of work that I've been surrounded around. And I kind of take pride in that just because of the fact that, like, dude, I'm a normal ass person, right? So like, I'm not this like social media guru like of a thing, but on the other side of stuff as well, like that's what I do for companies, you know, like whether with Selection when I was their creative director and running their whole Instagram and things like that. But for myself, I've always liked to be this behind the scene kind of person. So I just felt like with the social media, the way that it's set up today and day, it almost kind of just stops you from even wanting to share work, because then it's like you're on a race against your timeline and like yourself, and now you got to feel like you got to produce quality work time after time after time just to stay relevant.
It's a job in itself.
It's a job within itself, and it shouldn't be, you know, like Instagram should just be what Instagram was from the jump. But obviously today and day, it's a tool and a resource that, you know, has connected me with a lot of people and has granted me a lot of blessings as well. But you can't deny the evils of it. But to wrap that up with all that being said, it's just, I feel like you were saying, I know that there's people out there that connect enough for me not to give up.
Okay.
You know, like whether it is the 5,000 followers that I have, or if one day 5 million, like I know that there's people there that like are really resonating with what I do and that look for it, you know, and that reach out and that tell me like, man, this really helped me in this situation, or I love that you expressed this way. Or even with the Object 001, like I've had a lot of great support from that. But the first time that I sold one where it wasn't correlated to me whatsoever, like it wasn't a friend, it wasn't a friend of a friend, it wasn't somebody who saw the Instagram because they follow me, that like it just randomly, you know, 2:30 in the morning at that, get an email that somebody purchased it, you know, and like that to me was like enough where I was like, okay, I gotta keep going. You know?
It really drives you, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. And, you know, as artists, we are our own worst critics. So a lot of it, there's a lot of pressures coming from the social media stuff, coming from yourself, coming from the acceptance of just like your peers and, you know, people that you look up to and things like that. Or you usually compare yourself, which is like the worst thing that you could possibly do is compare yourself. Like once you start comparing yourself to other people's successes, it robs your joy.
Yeah,
you know, we all have our own story. We all have our own process. I remember I was listening to the episode with Jasmine, and she said the same thing. And she was like, you know, just because this one person at a certain age has accomplished what maybe your dream job doesn't mean that you'll never get that dream job, or that, you know, it's just their path and it's your path, and you go through it in different ways. But you know, when is your time is your time.
And to add on to that, we live in such a competitive culture where Instagram just amplifies that, because you could be chilling and then go on the gram and see your boy making a big move, and it just inspires you and just like, damn, I gotta match that, or I gotta like step on the pedal a little bit more. But I wish that it wasn't that way, you know?
Yeah, no, and once again, the comparison is where it robs that. You know, if anything, it should motivate you, but it should motivate you in a good way.
True.
You know, not in the petty, envious kind of way where it's like, oh, I need to do better to make them know that I'm better than them or that I can keep up. You should just want to be better for yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good point.
And it's once again, it's tough because you're your own worst critic, but just like you're your own worst critic, you should be your biggest supporter as well.
That's fire. Yeah.
You know?
That's very, very true.
And I'm sitting here talking to myself because we all constantly still go through this. But
that's what I do on Twitter, bro. Every tweet I have is just a subtweet to myself, bro.
Yeah.
I feel like damn near. So you grew up in New York, right? You're not from California.
Yep. I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. Lived there until my early teens, and then we moved down to Florida when my little sister was born, where I did high school and a bit of college prior to then moving to California when I was 21 years old, and I'm about to be 28 years old this April.
Okay, so like going on 9 years out here.
Whatever that math is, 7, something like that, 7, 8 years.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hold you to it. So what are some of the main differences that you noticed? Because you lived in New York and California now for a good amount of time in both places. What are some differences that you noticed between the two cities?
I mean, the bigger thing that is just apparent and obvious is just the quality of living.
Really?
You know, so both big cities, both expensive cities, both cities where a lot of opportunities can be given to you, you know, but the quality of living that's here in California is unmatched.
Really?
Like the fact that, you know, we are in downtown LA right now that looks just like a New York, you know, like a city kind of environment, but 10, 15 minutes up the road where I live, you know, it's Los Feliz, where there's just like hikes and mountains and all that. Or we can go up an hour to Big Bear and go snowing, or go 40 minutes and go to the beach and go surf. So,
that
you know,
is true.
it's something that in New York, you just can't get that.
Yeah, and those winters are harsh, I heard.
Yeah, and they very much are. Even though I think that something that I did notice about LA on the other side of that is just that it's always nice, and that kind of jades people in the sense of like, even if you're going through some shit or like you're just experiencing some bad days or whatever it is, because it's so nice out, you're like, well, at least it's nice out, you know?
You got something to
you
look
got something
up
to
on.
look up to, but that also can just like jade you and keep you in the same spot, you know, where it's
True.
like you don't work necessarily hard enough because it's nice out, and well, there's always tomorrow to get the bag, but today I can go mess around and go on a hike or go to the beach or, you
That's
know,
an
just
interesting
enjoy this weather.
perspective.
But in New York, there's not much of an option. It's just real fast paced, real fuck you pay me, real like everybody on the grind. And that's a beautiful thing too. But when it was time for me to move from Florida when I was an adult already, the reason I didn't go back to New York, being also that I lived in Florida, is because of the quality of living that I saw here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's just like the perfect place to be. And for the entertainment industry and the world that I surround myself in, it just felt like the right place to be too.
Yeah. What parts of New York do you think that you kind of still carry with you as far as like qualities?
Definitely my bluntness, my work ethic. Like, I go crazy when I don't have anything to do. Like, I feel weird.
Do you feel like that's an issue too for yourself?
I definitely do, because I feel like I don't enjoy my downtime. Like, or I don't know, it's this weird thing where I think that I don't deserve to enjoy the downtime, because there's just so much that I still think that I need to accomplish, that there is still to accomplish. But
That sounds like it would give me mad anxiety to like always have that.
and it definitely does, and it's something that I actually, you know, I wouldn't want to say suffer from, but I definitely battle, is anxiety. But you know, there's so many resources out there to help you with that as well, whether good friends or good support or going to therapy or just doing shit that just makes you happy. But yeah, man, it's definitely an anxiety-filled world when you constantly think that you have to do something.
Yeah. And putting that pressure on yourself just sometimes even makes your work have less quality too, I feel like, because you're forcing it. And we talked about that earlier, right?
Yep.
Like how not to really force things because the quality may not be there. So what do you do when you get in like creative blocks and you just aren't feeling inspired?
I actually just got off that wave.
Really?
Yeah.
You just feel like you're in a funk kind of?
Yeah. You know, and the pandemic, I feel like weighs on people differently, of course. You know, obviously we're all going through this major thing, and, you know, there's just certain facts that we all suffer from. But I don't think until recently it really has hit me that, like, holy shit, like another year of this. But as of recently, I climbed over that hurdle. But to climb over that hurdle, to answer your question, it's just stepping away from it, like, in full.
Okay.
Like, there's times where I've caught myself, like, when you try hard, you die hard. Like, I'm just doing the most trying to create, you know, and like forcing stuff. And, you know, I'm surrounded by inspiration all the time. And not necessarily what you think would be inspiration, like the tangible goods or like the art books or like, you know, the cool stuff that's in my house. Like, it's just more about like the people that I'm surrounded around, you know, like the life around me. So like there's inspiration constantly around me. And for me, who I'm a storyteller, I can't look at a book and get inspired. Like, I can't scroll on Tumblr and get inspired. Like, I just don't.
So you draw the inspiration like naturally
From life itself. Like, I actually have to experience something to actually be moved by it, or have somebody close to me experience that.
And that's what I think, that right there is what makes you an artist. Like, if you apply that in any art, like, that's what that type of artist thinks like, you know?
Yeah, and it's mainly because I feel like once you start looking at the art books, or you start looking at your inspirations or the people, your peers or your competition or stuff like that, it once again jades you, because then you start comparing, you know, and you start just like, oh, well, this person has been doing this and I need to find my own way to do that, or I need to also take on 3 other million tasks on top of everything else that I'm doing, you know? So for me, it's just more about experiencing life itself away from my art, which is photography, video, music, within DJing. Just stepping back from that and actually just enjoying life itself to then have something hopefully transpire or inspire from that moment.
Yeah. So basically disconnect to reconnect, right?
Yep, 100%. And being that, of course, you know, we're stuck in a time right now where we really can't do much. Like going out to nature has helped a lot. Just like
facts.
doing the hikes. You know, I've traveled a lot to Washington also, the state, and just being in different environments that I'm not accustomed to or grew up around.
That's true, yeah.
To keep that childlike mentality up, you know, that curiosity of it all, because ultimately that curiosity is the chase for me. It's just like, what's next, what if. But yeah, I'm lucky to be surrounded around, you know, a good amount of people who support me, and through their experiences and their lives and their stories, I'm able to get inspired.
Okay. When you first moved out here, did you already have connects, or like when you moved out here, what was your goal when you got here?
No, I didn't know anybody.
You didn't know anybody? Wow.
No, I actually never visited California until the first time I came out here, which is 2014, and then a month later I moved. I just packed all my stuff and moved across country. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have a place to live. I moved with two great friends who still live here, who still are great friends, and we just had the conversation of just like, we can either be a product of our environment or we can just try, you know, to do better. And if we fail, then we at least tried.
Yeah.
But here we are, you know, since 2014 till now, 7 years later, still here. But yeah, I didn't know anyone. I just took it as a risk, man. You got to take some risks sometimes in life, and then like take that leap of faith. And for some reason, I always saw myself living here. Like I said, when I got older, I never saw myself going back to New York.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of my inspirations as a kid, whether rocket power or whether spending summers also in the Dominican Republic and just being surrounded around beaches and this kind of, you know, good lifestyle, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
I just always saw, I was like, damn, like Los Angeles really is like the best place in the United States to live at.
Yeah. Do you think that, because I want to touch on something that we talked about on the phone, about how maybe 5 or 6 years ago, you were hoping or dreaming of being where you're at right now. Mm-hmm. So when you first moved to California in 2014 with your friends, did you envision yourself being where you're at today, or did you want to be where you're at today?
Yes. Yes, and it takes moments like this for me to actually really realize that, you know.
Really?
Like I'd be lying if I said that like I didn't have this plan and, you know, I didn't have these goals and I live every life day by day. Like, no, I'm very much a black and white person. I've always had goals. I've always tried to accomplish these goals. I'm very hard on myself to accomplish those goals. But looking back at things and looking at where I'm at now, I definitely saw myself accomplishing certain things, but I have surpassed my expectations by a lot. By like a lot. And
that's fire.
It's a blessing. I'm very grateful for it, but it also has taught me a lot, because like we were talking about on the phone, like a lot of accomplishments that we go through in life, you know, you work hard so you can accomplish something, and then you feel the satisfaction, and then hopefully if you're a hard worker, you put your head back down and you continue working and then repeat this cycle, right? And then you start like wondering like, well, what is this it factor? Like, what is it that I'm chasing? You know, like, is it this big job? Is it directing a music video for like a legend of an artist or one of your favorite artists? Is it, you know, getting a big check for doing something that you love and that you can do with your own hands? Like, is it your mom telling you that she's proud? Like, is it you living alone by yourself and maintaining your life? Like, whatever that it factor is changed so much over the years that I realized that this is why you got to just enjoy that process.
Yeah.
Right? Because there truly never really is a final it goal. You know, like we're always, of course, working towards whatever keeps you happy and whatever you feel like makes you successful. But I personally don't think that there's this like ultimate achievement.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So how long is long enough to appreciate an accomplishment that you just achieved? Like, I feel like that's an interesting topic to touch on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how long do you enjoy the award before you go back to work?
That is a great question.
You know?
And I ask myself that all the time. You know, I'd be lying if I had a direct answer. That's a question I feel like we can have our own conversation just on that.
Yeah.
I personally think that for me, the way I experience things is I usually get really, which is really probably bad, but I usually get really excited in the beginning of things. Like before things are even cemented usually, which is really bad because I've gotten things taken away from me because they just fall through, you know, and
Yeah.
for whatever the reason, not because I jinxed it by speaking on it early, but just because of the fact that it just business, you know, and it just went through for whatever that reason may be. But I tend to enjoy things in the early stages a lot.
Okay.
Like the pre-production or the pre-planning of it all, just to get that excitement out of me.
Yeah.
Because then after that, it's time to work.
That's crazy. That's an
And
interesting.
also like I've never been like, oh my God, I'm working with so-and-so or I'm surrounded. Like I've never gotten nervous to the point where I can't work.
Yeah.
But I think it's because of how I choose to handle my excitement. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, I was a director of photography for an Usher music video.
Crazy.
And obviously for me, like that was just like, oh my God, like Usher, this is like a living legend, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
You were dancing to fucking
8-year-old me's over here, like let it burn, you know? But that was probably the only time that I went into something kind of nervous of like, damn, like, I can't mess up.
Yeah.
But because I was so excited about it before going into it and just jamming out and remembering that I'm a fan.
Yeah, you're working for somebody
You
that
know,
you
I'm
used to
working
look
for
up
somebody
to.
that I'm a fan for, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like that leveled it and humbled it down for me. I've never been the type of person that enjoys things after the fact, but I will say this, I am the person who I don't realize certain things that I'm living in the moment until moments after or like years after.
Okay.
Like sometimes like that whole Usher experience, like it never really truly hit me just because it happened so fast and it was moving so fast and there were so many things on the business end on the back that was happening so quick that it was just like, you got to go to make sure that this like actually sees the light of the day, you know, like
Can't fumble the bag.
don't fumble it, you know, like whatever they say, yes, like work hard, like don't sleep, turn in the edit, like go.
Yeah.
And when it finally dropped on July 4th and like seeing all my friends be super happy and even my mom and all that, like that was cool and I enjoyed it and I celebrated it for that moment, but I never really truly like sat with it. You know, and
has it hit you yet to this day?
It hasn't hit me yet. There's moments like, especially when it came to when I used to travel a lot for work with one of my really good friends, Andre Power. But I used to travel a lot for work with Andre, and we've seen so many different places and countries that I never in a million years would have thought I visited.
Yeah.
And not until recently did I start enjoying all those moments.
And the dope part about it is you weren't traveling to travel, you were traveling to do what you love and work. You know what I mean? That's what was bringing you there. It's not like you paid for a ticket to travel, you know?
Yeah. And I think that was the reason to also why I probably didn't really enjoy it in that moment is because we were so busy working and like living it, you know, and like that was a lot of stuff that, you know, to the outside world, you know, until you travel for work and travel as much as we would travel, which is like every 3 to 4 days out of your house, you don't realize like how that like traveling itself is a job and is a stress. You know, we all know traveling is usually like a vacation, and granted we get to visit beautiful places whether in the States or out the country, but it's still for work. You know, you're still traveling a 15-hour flight into Asia, landing into a hotel in a different time zone, to wake up confused, to go to sound check, to then, you know, go to this party that you got a DJ and then I'm recording, and then all this to wake up and just hop on a plane and do it all over again. But, you know, hey, we were in Malaysia for 24 hours, you know, like
what are you going to do? What are you going to go to the beach or something? Like,
yeah, but, and it's not to like knock that lifestyle or like take away from the amazingness of it, but it was still a lot of work and a lot of stress. But looking back now, and I'm working like on a photo book and just seeing all the photos and all the videos and all the things that I've documented, and I'm like, damn, like I've lived such a blessed life. Like, and with this pandemic, it's made me realize it made me realize it even more, because I was like, man, BC, like before COVID, I'm okay because I honestly think I lived my best life. Like, I don't think that I would be able to live the life I lived again, even if I wanted to, because of all the precautions we now have to take, you know, whether with flying or Lord knows when we'll be able to go to a live event again, you know, like, so I'm very fortunate that I was able to live and experience the life that I lived prior to COVID.
And it makes you really grateful for it too. You know what I mean? Because we want to be hopeful that it'll happen again, but like you realize that this thing could be taken away from you. Like, it's not always going to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But let's just hope for better days. And
100%.
And we all know that, you know, things are going to be better, but we're going to have to just adapt. And however that new way of living is, like, hopefully we're just cool with it. But yeah, man.
What are you looking forward to most, like, AC after COVID?
I mean, it sounds cliche, but obviously traveling. You know, and a person like myself who, once again, has been fortunate to see so many beautiful places in this world. Because I'm now reflecting on all these wonderful wins that I've had in my life, I definitely see how traveling for me inspired me a lot. Yeah. Just once again, seeing new things, trying different things, hearing other people's stories, seeing how other people live. Like, you leave this country and you really realize how blessed and fortunate we are. Like, as crazy as even these last 4 years have been, like, we are very lucky. And the stories and the things that I've experienced in other countries, like, have only humbled me, you know, even more. Yeah. And especially us living in Los Angeles, another thing that I noticed too, like, outside of just life itself, why we're so lucky to live here is because we're living in a time where it doesn't matter geographically necessarily where you're at, physically at, but we're all together in one place, and that's the internet. But for the majority of culture or the internet that we're surrounded, the world moves around, is from Los Angeles, you know? And it took me to go to a Tokyo and you know, you're shopping and, like, you just see, like, all your LA homie streetwear brands being highlighted in a way where it was like a Louis Vuitton almost, you know? That's crazy. Like, them, like, looking at you like, oh my God, but you dress so cool, or, like, so infatuated with, like, what you do, where you're from, what you listen to, what you eat, like, every little detail, just because we're from LA. Yeah. You know, so people have this, like, these special eyes on Los Angeles, which is why I honestly think that it's just, like, a really, really beautiful place to be. But once again, you can't sit here and expect LA to just give you everything or give you something. Yeah. Do you think you're gonna live here forever? Do you have any other? No. Do you have other places where you want to move to? Yeah, definitely. LA is a great place to work. I don't necessarily see myself raising a family whenever that time is in Los Angeles. Yeah. I don't know where else I would go, but I don't see myself raising a family in Los Angeles, and I don't see myself being here forever either. Like, this is definitely a place to come get your bag. Yeah, you build know, your do reputation. What you gotta do, and from there, hopefully it takes you somewhere. But I'm a simple dude. I like a simple life. Like, I love LA, but I don't like what comes with LA. Yeah, a lot of LA. But I like simple living, man. Out of all the places that I've traveled to, if I had to choose somewhere, I always say San Diego. Really? San Diego? Even though obviously it's a couple hours from LA, and it might sound like, really, bro, you're gonna, choose San Diego. But yeah, man, there was something about San Diego when I first visited here that felt very home-like. Okay. And LA never really has given me that home-like feeling. It honestly is just like a place where I'm just like, let's get it. You know, like, it drives me. Yeah. But not a place to necessarily, like, retire or, like, chill out at. Like, this is it. Like, because I feel like when there's this place that you want to live at or, like, do long term, I feel like you just know, you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I've been here 7 years. I could easily see myself doing another 7 to 10, but you know, like I said, I'm still 28. But, you know, who knows? Do you think that traveling to the places that you've traveled and the amount of places that you've been, do you think that grows your appetite for wanting to travel to more places or wanting to explore more things? Definitely. You know, it's like that nomad lifestyle. there's just like this thrill and this high that you get from it, you know, like
Yeah.
like I've read something not too long ago where it was like, you only if you know, like if you know, you know, but like that thrill that you get when you know, are 10 minutes from boarding and you're still in the Uber and you got to go through security and like, you know, it's like
That
this
rush.
like this rush that you get, but like once you're on the other side, you're like, yeah, I did that. But it's just because like you like to travel, you know how to travel, you know how to maneuver and move around, but it definitely gives you the craving to want to travel more, 100%.
Yeah.
Like I wish that I was like, man, if I wouldn't be a creative, or if I had to settle and pick a job or something like that, like what would I want to be, you know? And a lot of times I try to like go towards the chef route because I like to cook, but I still think that that's too of a creative thing. Like that's being a chef is still very much an artist.
100%. Yeah.
So I still think that it's too like within the field of artistry for me to be like, oh, well, if I wasn't a creative, I'd be a chef. Like,
It's still a creative.
But I think that I would probably be like a pilot or a flight attendant or something like that.
Really?
Just because of the benefits of traveling.
Oh, okay. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Just because like if there's something that I've taken away from traveling is just the ability to move and connect. You know?
So being occupied by an industry that allows you to express that when you go to places.
Yep. Like traveling, love it. Sign me up. Get me out of here.
What's next for you, bro? Like what are you looking to do next as far as like a big project or another like Object 002? Like what's up next?
Yeah, definitely. With Redirects, which is the art object company, the art goods, Object 002 is next. I'm actually about to sell out on Object 001, which is super cool just because it's only been a month and it's something new. It's a new territory that I'm entering. So to see the support that I've gotten from that is very humbling. But definitely what I'm working on next is Object 002. I don't want to speak too much on that. But it's very exciting. It's just exciting to be able to tell a story in a different avenue, man. Like,
Yeah.
And once again, not conforming to this box of like I'm a photographer or you're a typical artist. It's cool to just step into new territories and struggle, and it inspires me to do everything else that I do because I'm now learning this new craft throughout these goods that I'm putting out.
What makes your work so innovative? Because I feel like it's very innovative. It's very different.
Appreciate it.
And I want to know like your creative process behind like what you do. Like, do you go from like inspiration to like I gotta write this down immediately to doing it, or is it a different process?
It just comes in waves, man. I always like my notes on my phone is just constantly open, just writing stuff down. I'm trying to be a better organizer because my thoughts are just very sporadic.
Yeah.
So I've tried to like at least start a note and then within that note just kind of go crazy with my thoughts. But depending on what projects I'm working on, definitely, like I said, I'm not the pick up a book and get inspired kind of an artist. I'm more of just like experiencing stuff kind of an artist.
So when you experience something that inspires you in the moment, what do you do? What's like
Write
the first
it down
thing
right away
on your notes?
Yeah, I'll take out my phone and literally write it down, and that could be whether I'm watching a movie and there's a dialogue that's being had and I'm recording that dialogue for an intro to a mix, or whether it's literally driving and I'm looking to my right and I see somebody in a passenger seat just having a specific emotion and I just take a photo of their emotion, you know, and it's just these little things that just like spark an idea, and then just sitting with that, and being that I'm so inspired by music, I'll literally just my iTunes just put it on shuffle, and like I'm constantly having, I guess I would say, like music videos or something like that, just like for whatever I'm listening to going in my head.
Like, what would I do for this?
Yeah,
like
but that allows me to then map out stories, and that story can then be used for a object. It can be used for a mix. It can be used for a photo series. It can be used for a video. Right now I'm working on, I just moved and I set up my portrait studio at the house, and I'm working on a new portrait series, and then I'm working on a short video series as well. And the way that I've been getting inspired through that is just literally just playing records and like buying records that like I normally wouldn't listen to.
Yeah.
Just like music that artists that I don't even know about, and just playing these records and just like sitting in my living room, literally listening to music and with my notes or my journal open and just writing. And then from there, just like breaking down that, like, okay, what is going to go to the music, what's going to go to the photo, what's going to go to the video. And a lot of the time I'll start and I'll be like, okay, cool, like I have this idea and I'm going to do this and I'm going to reach out to this person so they can be the model for it. And then like I'll do the whole thing from pre-production to post-production. And
All
then,
at once?
Not all at once, but like once I'm done doing it and I'll look back and I'm like, nah, this ain't it. Or
Really?
like, or this needs to be for a mix, or this needs to be for this.
So you're like delegating your ideas to different creative arts
as they're happening though.
Wow, that's interesting.
Which is like a weird thing that just happens. I don't know, my mind just works in that way where I'll start off and I'll be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna work on this mix. And then as I'm working on the mix, I'm already thinking about the artwork for the mix, the video for the mix, the promo for the mix. Like my homie who I want to have him create a poem or recite something or create a song for the intro for the mix. Like it's all happening at once and I'm just delegating them to different parts of different roles, I guess I would say.
That's crazy.
It's
just the way your mind works. So you can't really explain it, right?
And it's like you said, it's very overwhelming and that anxiety. Like, but I know that there's people out there that are very much like me, that very much just are overthinkers, and it's just like spitballing ideas.
Yeah.
And I like to create all of them to then delegate and organize.
Yeah, and the fact that, sorry to cut you off, but the fact that you are so experienced in different types of creative arts allows you to execute those ideas. Because imagine if you just stuck to DJing and you had ideas to do other things. It's like you don't have the skills to execute that, right? Correct.
And I feel like in a day like today, it is very, very, very important to pick up multiple skills as a creative. On a personal project level, on a professional business level, like you just want to pick up as many talents as possible, because even for myself when I was 21 years old, right, and like the resources and the tools that were available to us back then versus even now is just crazy. Like you see these real young kids who are just like YouTube University, like experts, and like learn so much. And not to say that I can't or like you can't either, but you want to be able to do it all yourself, so not be able to like reach out to people if you don't have to. But at the same time, something that I had to learn the hard way is there's nothing more satisfying than working with people who are as excited for that project as you are and can execute what you are looking to do better than you. Right? And it's okay to ask for help, because I had this whole thing where it's like, no, I gotta direct it, I gotta shoot it, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta take all the credit, and and even sometimes, you know, on some financial stuff, like all the budget. Like,
why do you think you were that way?
Because I had to prove it to myself.
Really?
Or prove it to the client, I guess I would say.
That's how I feel. You just described how I feel right now with what I do. Like, I don't know why I feel that way, but it's like, I feel like I'm so obsessed with my vision that if I bring somebody else in, I don't want them to impose on what that vision is.
And
like,
it's very important to concrete that, right? To know what your vision is. And for you guys watching, like, this man has set all this up like all by himself. There's no one else behind this camera here. Like,
thank you.
Everything is set up by himself, so that just shows the detail to the passion.
I appreciate that, bro. But that's mad love.
No, for real, man. And that's a bigger thing of it, right? It's like you have to know what it is that you want to do before you even ask for the help.
That's true.
Like, how am I going to sit here and be like, well, this is kind of what I want to do, but I'm not really too sure if that's even what I want to do, you know? And that's why, like I said, when I think about my projects, I just, okay, what's everything that I would want to have done with this idea?
Right.
Like, I'm thinking like billboard status, you know, like, okay, even a billboard, like, just because you never know if you have that opportunity to do it, you already have it ready to go.
Yeah, you gotta stay ready to be ready.
Exactly. 1000%. You gotta stay ready to be ready. But like you said, there's that moment though where you're gonna have to ask for help, right? Or you have to know, like, hey, there's a reason why there is that budget, you know. And it's not only to just pay somebody, but just to take away that responsibility from you. Because even though, yes, I can edit the video I just directed, if I can pay somebody who's going to just specifically do that and execute that vision to their best ability, so I can focus on being the director and just the director, then I'm just going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
You know?
When did you start thinking that way? Like, what did it take for you to be like, all right, I need to start asking for help. I need to start delegating this work to other people or other creatives?
I think the bigger the ideas got, and not the bigger the budgets got, but the bigger that the ideas got. There's like I said, there's times where I have ideas and I execute them in full, you know, and I'm very sorry for the people that I've I wouldn't say wasted your time, but like that I've asked for your time and we work on projects, and then I'm coming back to you like, hey, I'm so sorry, but I don't want to put this out, and like I know that we've both invested our time into this, but I just don't feel fully comfortable, because once you see it and it doesn't match what you had up here, I'm that type of way where even if to the slightest bit you're not going to get the experience that I know I can give you, I'd rather just put the idea on hold until we can get to
and
that
come
point.
back to it.
It's just like archiving these ideas.
That's very much how producers work. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of producers have so much heat in the archives that they don't release, that they'll put out one day and it's like, I made this beat 5 years ago, and it's just like, what the fuck? Like, you just put out some heat. Like, that was fire. Why wasn't it put out earlier, you know?
There's a right time and a right place for everything, you know, and I'm a firm believer of that. But yeah, man, it's just one of those things where I feel like if you rush it, the moment your gut and your heart tells you like, I don't really know, just don't, you know, because that's just the way I see it. Once again, this is just me, because then I do, and then I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, damn, I know that I could have done that, but I could have transitioned that mix better. I could have done this better. And of course, once again, you're your own worst critic, and you'll forever be hard on yourself. Yeah. But then there's just certain things that you know that your work ethic can deliver. Yeah. Right? Like, you know that you're done
confident
it.
At that point.
You're confident, or you've done it before, so why would you, like, you got to be hard on yourself. Yeah. You know, it's like, I was watching Rest in Peace, this Kobe interview, and he was just talking about that, where it's just like, the moment you cheat yourself, like, why would you cheat yourself? You know, it's like the moment you cheat yourself, you're just telling yourself, like, you're cutting yourself short. Yeah. Like, you can't do that, because if you're doing that, then how serious am I supposed to take you, you know?
That's true, yeah.
Especially if we've already seen that work ethic. You know, it's like me coming to do this interview, and it wowed me the moment I walked in, and it's so properly set up. Love. And then the next time we do the interview, like, the neon lights don't work. And it's just like, dude, like, what happened? And you're like, oh, it's all good, bro. We're just going to keep it rolling. This is like, what happened to this work ethic that you set up for yourself? You know?
That's
like,
true. You got to set a standard for yourself, and then follow that from that point on. You know what I mean? Once you start losing that standard and you don't have that foundation, everything just starts falling to shit. Yeah. You know?
Or that's when I say, because another thing too, it's like, it's time to move on from that.
Because you don't have love for it anymore. You don't have interest in it.
And that's very okay. And sometimes it's a very hard thing to come to the realization of, is like, I have a lot of love for this, but not enough love for this anymore. Yeah. And your attention just isn't there, and the work quality just isn't there, and the resources aren't there. You know, it's just like you feel it. You're not giving it what you used to give it.
Have you been in that situation before?
Definitely.
Has it happened to you?
Definitely. I've been there and I've been there and come back to it. You know, I've been there with photography, where I'm just like, this isn't it anymore. Like, I'm not having fun with it. And I think that I don't know if for any other fellow creatives, but a struggle that I constantly go through is like, okay, I'm a creative first and foremost. I'm an artist first and foremost. With my passions, it has also become my work. And with my work, it also pays my bills. So obviously it is work, you know, and becomes stressful, and it becomes very anxiety filled, and then you start doing things because it's just work. Yeah. Like, I moved recently, and I picked up my what I consider work camera, you know, which is crazy, because it's like, dude, this is a camera. But like, I'm like, no, this one is just for work. I can only pick this one up for work. And when I was looking through it, and I'm like, man, like, dope work on there, but it's just work. There's no passion projects. There's no me just walking around with my camera like 18-year-old me would, you know, like 18-year-old me would have never thought I would even have the camera that I have now, you know? So it's just like, what happened to just walking around the neighborhood and taking pictures of birds and the street, you know? And a lot of it has to go through with what we were talking about with the social media and having to feel like you have to stay up and compete and be relative and have enough content, enough quality content to stay up and relative with everyone that's around you, you know, because if not, you'll lose your following and so forth and so on, and you won't get enough likes and all this stuff. But it's just like, dude, just pick up the camera, go outside and experience life
like
and
you used to
document
do
it
it
like
too.
you used to, because that is what was inspiring, you know, which is why, like, for me, the books and the things I buy, even that I like, of course, and that, they inspire me to the extent that they inspire me because of that artist. But I can't just be like, oh, okay, today's inspo day.
I 100%.
You know, I think that stuff just naturally comes to you, and of course, you could have creative powwows and conversations. You can link and build with homies and all that stuff. But I think that, like, natural, genuine inspiration just comes from, like, experiencing life.
That's very well said, and I experienced that even with, like, meditation. Like, I remember I've
Big
done
co-signer on meditating.
I've done so many what do they call those? Deprivation tanks.
Sleep. So cool,
bro. But for some reason, I don't get anything out of it. Like, I'll sit in there for hours or for an hour, and it won't do anything for me. And I think it's because I think that same way that you explained. I can't just force myself into this meditative state, like lay in the water, then all of a sudden I feel peace. Like, I seek meditation when it's like my energy attracts to it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that is very relatable to what you were saying. You can't just force yourself to, like, feel a certain way or feel inspired. It's inspo day today. Like,
correct.
It's like, yo, I need meditation right now, so I'm going to step away from whatever I'm doing, get that peace, and come back to it.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think that that's just a trait that a lot of similar, like-minded individuals like ourselves have, where, like, it's not just towards inspiration or towards meditation. Like, it's just towards anything. Like, once I tell myself that I can't do something or that I have to do this to get this, then I start psyching myself out.
Yeah.
Because it's like you said, it's like, so you're telling me that I have to be in this think deprivation tank for an hour to get this gratification of meditation from this? Like, and if I freak out or I'm having anxiety in there, or I decide that I don't want to be in there the full hour, then what? I'm not meditating, or I don't get the satisfaction from this, you know? Like, I've done those think deprivation tanks and have left in 5 minutes, and I've done them and have been in there for 55 minutes and have gotten the same satisfaction, because it's just like that eureka moment where it's just like, or like you tap out or tap into whatever it is that you're looking for. But of course, there's resources and there's things that are there specific to meditating, to getting inspiration, but a lot of it just starts from you just letting it come to you, you know, like allowing it, not forcing it.
What are some things that you do to meditate and to control your environment and just seek peace for yourself?
I tweeted this the other day because I think I'm a morning person. I like to wake up early, and I don't know if that's just the East Coast in me and, like, being out here and it's like 7 a.m. and I'm already just, like, ready to go, you know, but
maybe
I'm a morning person, and I think that the way that I start my mornings dictates a lot to my mental health. Like, if I'm waking up and I'm like, ugh, or, like, you know, just stressed about something, like, for the rest of the day, probably that's just my mood.
Wow. So the energy you wake up with dictates how your day goes, basically.
Right away, is usually how it goes. I've been trying to, especially, and side note, but to also relate to this, there's just things that are within your control that you know that you can do to set yourself up for success when it comes to how you're starting your day, right? So, like, I moved recently because I felt like where I was before, I didn't feel motivated overall. So it's just like my change of environment as a whole had to change for me to just be okay there, you know, and not saying that it has to be that drastic for anyone every single time, but there's just certain time, there's just certain moments in your life where you realize, like, no matter what I do, I'm still feeling this a certain type of way or hitting this wall, and you got to realize, like, okay, I got to take a bigger step to then get to this routine that I'm trying to make for myself, which is the routine that I now have, which is waking up. I usually light an incense. I play some music, usually from the homie Esta, who has just, like, real chill ambiance, meditation music, you know, and I just have that going. And I'm not like this yogi meditating expert. Like, I can't sit here and, like, name stuff, but I just try to sit in my thoughts for however long that my thoughts allow me to sit within them.
Okay.
You know, because like you said, there's times where I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I can actually block everything out. And there's times where I'm sitting there and I'm like, boy, you got mad shit to do. You got to get your ass up right now. But it just takes that second of me allowing myself to sit within my thought to realize like, okay, you can take action and move forward, or you can sit in your thoughts a little bit more. But I think the way that I start my mornings is just like a huge dictate to like how I go about my day.
Yeah, and the fact that you're able to control your environment is a blessing in itself. Like me, I remember growing up, obviously when you grow up, you're living with your parents, so you don't have a lot of control over how your life goes. It's dictated by somebody else, you know what I mean? So when I was growing up, I had trouble with the environments that I was in, but I wasn't able to change them because you're just stuck there. So now that I had that like rough upbringing when I was younger, it makes me enjoy the things I have now so much more because I get to control my environment. I get to do the things that make me happy, and I get to basically make my living space, you know what I mean? So when you compare your life to how it used to be, I feel like it's just makes you so much more grateful for it.
Yeah, and also just remembering, like you said, the bigger thing is that you are in control of that. Right?
Yeah.
Like no one is gonna do it for you like you will do it for yourself. So
yeah,
just having that mindset, and like I said, waking up in the morning and being positive. I'm a firm believer of manifestation and that the universe listens, and that goes with good and bad, you know? So like if you're waking up in the morning and you're like, damn, I'm stressed, or I have this and that going on, or this is just gonna be another day, like the universe very much picks up on that energy.
Yeah, I get so torn with manifestation because you kind of talked about how you were like this earlier too, where it's like I don't like to jinx things. Like opportunities coming up and I'm so excited for it. It's like I want to manifest it, but at the same time, it's like I kind of don't want to say anything, so I jinx it or I get my hopes up. You know, I battle with that a lot.
Yeah, I think that everyone kind of does. Like I said, for me, it's not something that I would recommend to anybody. Is to like you asked earlier, is like, when do I enjoy the highs or the good moments in the work? And it's like, for me, I like I said, I enjoy them in the beginning or the pre-production of it all, or even prior to it actually happening. Like I can get an email like, hey, we're thinking about doing this possibly, and you might be taken into consideration. I'm already like, oh, that's me. Like, you know, and that's part of my manifestation is like, I want to get that excited from the jump to declare that is me. You know,
that's
and not
true.
only does
you gotta
it like
be able to see yourself
not
doing
only
it.
not only exactly, not only does it take the excitement away from it for both things. Like if I don't get it, I'm like, oh, it's all good. I was already excited, or you know, like that already left.
You already experienced it.
I already experienced it. You know, like in my mind, I shot it, I did it, it went out, everyone saw it, everyone's happy. Like that's usually how it goes for me. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at that both ways too, as far as like controlling how you react to things, because when bad things happen, you're in control of how you react to them, and how you react to them is controls how you feel about it. You know what I mean? Like there's things now that like I don't trip about. It's very, very, very hard to make me mad these days. Like you gotta really fuck up for me to be like really pissed, just for the simple fact that like, man, I don't want to have somebody's negative energy affect my life. Like either, I just want to reflect that. And
I applaud you for that. And it takes a lot and to even get to that mindset. So yeah, kudos to that, because
appreciate you.
I think we all probably know what it is to be on the other side of that, you know, and nobody likes to be there. So that takes a lot, man. But yeah, once you get to that point where you know what's up, no one's gonna take that away from you, you know?
When, like you said earlier, once you realize like why you're doing something and you do it for the good of your own self rather than try to compete with somebody else, that's like true peace, right?
Yeah, and essentially that's how it should be, you know, or at least we try to.
Facts. So for somebody who's listening out there that wants to get to where you're at, whether it's a creative director, whether it's visual arts with photography, videography, editing, or whether it's for music and DJs, what advice do you have for somebody out there that wants that?
I would say just start. A big thing is actually doing it. You know, I have a really good friend by the name of Bernie, and her mantra is, it's not that impressive. You know, and it's like, all my accomplishments, all of my goals, all the things that are on my resume, like they're very great things that I'm very proud of. But like I said, I'm a normal person. They're not impressive. You can do it too. you know?
Yeah.
And I'm a product of that, because it's not like I moved to LA and I was tapped into this certain crowd and I had all these connections. Like, I'm still figuring it out day by day, you know? But
Yeah.
the bigger thing that I would say is just start, just do it. You know, if you want to become a photographer, don't wait for this fancy camera. Like, these phones literally do way more than what these cameras even do these days, you know? Or like, you don't need to have models, you can shoot your friends. Like I said, the inspiration is all around you already. You know, don't get boxed in that just because you don't know cool models, or you don't know cool stylists, or you don't have a studio, or whatever it might be. Just literally start whatever it is that you want to do, you know, whether it is creative direction, whether it is DJing, whatever it is that you want to do. I would say just start.
And it's important too to act on that inspiration while you have it, because so many ideas go away and that inspiration leaves and the idea just dies.
They say that one of the best places to find the best ideas and the best inspirations ever is a graveyard.
What?
Because
really?
People just die with their ideas, bro. Because they never actually do them, you know?
Wow,
and it's
that's
just
a bar.
It's just one of those things where like we are so caught into like, well, it's my idea and it's only my idea, or like it's my idea and I want to be able to deliver this before anyone else delivers it, or damn, I thought of this but this person already did it first, so I'm never gonna do it because this person now did it, and apparently this person owns the rights to just, you know, like I can never do it again. So that's why I say like just do it, because if you have a great idea and you know that it's a great idea, get it out there. There's somebody that's going to relate to it, and whether it's one person or a million people, as long as you're doing it with the right intention, you took your time, there's quality to it, people will relate. Trust me.
Have you ever had a fire idea and didn't act on it, and then somebody did it and you
All the
saw
time.
it, bro? I hate that shit.
All the time. And like you're a
pissed.
liar if you do not relate to that. Like, it's all the time, but it's just a constant reminder once again to just do it, you know? And also to not be afraid to not be accepted. You know, like,
Go, what do you mean?
you can't be afraid to not be accepted. You know, like, if you have this idea and you're afraid that you creating this or putting this idea out, that people aren't going to accept you for that idea, like, you can't be afraid.
Okay.
You know, because the moment you're afraid of what I think about your idea, you're doing it once again for all the wrong reasons. You're supposed to be doing this for like, because you think that you believe inside that this is a great idea and the world deserves to see this. Even if that one person doesn't agree with it, you know, but you already stopping yourself because you're afraid of what somebody might say.
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
You got to be fearless.
You gotta be fearless. You know, you can't be looking for solutions to problems that haven't even occurred yet, because you're just gonna stop yourself from doing it. And like I said, the biggest thing is just doing it. And I would definitely say to just find somebody that you align with, who is in that field, and just reach out to them in a polite way. You know, as a fan, respectfully, like, you don't want to come off as like too much, you
like
know,
a fanboy
like,
or some shit.
Yeah, and I've been in that place too, and I know where like your intention is probably well, you know, but you're just like overly excited because you are a fan, you know. But there's asking for help genuinely, and then there's asking for help with intention of like getting the juice.
Okay.
You know, and I feel like we all can separate when somebody's doing that, you know?
Yeah.
We're all old enough to know when, like, oh, this person just genuinely wanted some help, or you just want to know what camera I use and what lens I use because you think that that is going to get you the same work or aesthetic that I have. And if that's how you're thinking, then you're already wrong, because you should already know that the camera and the equipment doesn't have nothing to do with it, you know?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of that in LA. Like, you know what I mean? If you live in, if you're not, obviously not like New York, but if you live in other places, it's not always like that. Like, things aren't like it is out here.
No, yeah, and I think that it has to do a lot with just like the comparison of it all.
Yeah.
You know, and we live in, once again, like, the internet is LA. So like, we not only are we like in it, but we also just see it too.
It's real life
we
Instagram out here.
But we see both things too. You know, I'm pretty sure you've been to places or met people where online it's this, but then in person it's just like completely opposite.
100%.
You know? So it's just like a very interesting thing to see.
Yeah. what would you say, like, let's say you could talk to like 16-year-old version of you, what would you say to yourself?
16-year-old version of me, I would probably say to stay weird.
Stay weird.
Yeah, I always thought that I was the weird kid or like an oddball just because, you know, in high school I wasn't into like your typical sports, or like I wasn't doing the things that the product of my environment people were doing. So because I was into like arts and like photography and like stuff like that, like either I was considered weird or I just felt weird because I didn't fit in with what everyone else was doing.
Yeah.
But then like look at the world now where everyone is
now
documenting,
that's the cool thing.
You know, yeah, like it's the cool thing to do is to document and showcase your life. And this is something like I've had vlogs since I was like 15 years old, you know, and like it's just like things that back then, if I looking back on it, I would tell myself it's okay to be weird. And it's not weird by definition of what society has made weird. It's just who you are, and it's okay to be who you are.
Yeah, I think a big proponent of that is Pharrell. Pharrell really pushes that whole ideology that like it's okay to be weird, and he kind of like started that kind of wave when he was coming up.
Yeah, man, and you know, I mean, not obviously because we haven't touched on this, but a huge inspiration for me is Pharrell. You know, it's just because of that, the whole like, you could be surrounded around all these things, but still be you and true to you, you know?
Yeah.
Like just because like a Pharrell, he was surrounded around a bunch of rappers and gangsters doesn't mean that he necessarily was that person, you know? Like he very much takes pride in being opposite of that person.
Yeah.
You know, being the one that was like, I'm probably going to be the one that calls the police. Like,
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's just very much staying true to yourself. I think that that's something that, looking back on it, I probably would have had built my confidence a lot quicker had I just stood true to myself and not compared myself to others around me and thinking that like, oh, just because I'm not doing what people are doing that I'm not fitting in. Yeah,
and I think it's really cool that the world we're in now is a little bit more accepting of those type of things. Obviously, the world we're in now has tons of issues still, but the fact that so many, like, it's like the golden age of creativity right now, and that it's acceptable amongst the younger generation is only gonna make for like a better future. It's gonna be more creative and more open-minded, I feel like, you know what I mean? And that's at least a step in the right direction.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah. So where can people follow you if they want to follow your journey? Like, where can people find your social?
Yeah, at Ricky Directs across the board, RICKY DIRECTS, Ricky Directs. My art goods Instagram is re.directs. That's for Redirects, that's the brand. And yeah, you guys can just follow me on there and keep up with my life.
Hell yeah, most definitely. Any last words?
Any last words? I want to just thank you once again, bro, for having me on here, giving me this opportunity to just have a conversation with you that hopefully resonates to other people. Like I said, I'm just a regular dude who is just sharing his experiences, and hopefully you can relate. And if I have one thing to say, it is to definitely stay true to yourself. Don't let anybody take that away from you, and just everything with time. Enjoy the process. The journey is the best part of the ride. I promise you that.
Yes, sir. We're going to end on that. Ricky, appreciate you coming through,
appreciate you, bro.
This is love. I had fun, man. This was fun.
Thank you,
appreciate you coming on. All right, we're going to end on that. From Ambiance, Levi, Ricky. We out.
Peace.
Peace.